Jordan Peterson, like many others, has had his fair share of awkward moments that make for great content, and in today's video we'll be taking a look at just that. Prepare for 5 very awkward Jordan Peterson moments. Let's dive straight in. Steven Crowder. In this clip, Jordan is getting interviewed by Steven Crowder and Steven cracks a couple of jokes, and to his surprise, Jordan is a pretty tough person to make laugh.
Not too much dancing, we have to be professional because we have a real guest here, not Gay Jared.
Real guest.
Real guest, he's a gentleman and a scholar, quite literally. We say that a lot.
We say that, we mean it this time.
It's not true. He is a professor at the University of Toronto. Jordan Peterson videos on YouTube. Jordan B. Peterson, at Jordan B. Peterson on Twitter. I have those plugs right, correct?
You do.
You do. I highly recommend it. So we wrote about Professor Jordan Peterson a while back. He can just talk about exactly what it was. It rolled on gender pronouns and...
After they chat a little bit more, the room starts to get a bit awkward. However, Steven, being the comic genius he is, reduced the awkwardness levels.
Freedom of speech versus supposed social justice. I come from Canada where it was just sort of assumed, and then now he's blown up. He's been all over Joe Rogan on the interwebs. Thank you for being with us, sir.
Nice dance.
Well, thank you.
You're very graceful.
Well, you know, it's funny with Canadians, until he smiles, you don't know if it's a piercing stare or
It's kind of left in the dark on that one.
Kind of left in the dark, so I appreciate, you know, sometimes it's like you get professors and they say, I appreciate humor, but they don't crack a smile. You know, well, apparently they've had...
Cathy Newman. In this clip, Jordan was on the H3H3 podcast and he was talking about how Cathy Newman thought she had won the debate against him and how that turned into a pretty awkward scenario.
I think that is a good example of the danger of an echo chamber. Sure. I mean, the same thing happened to some degree in the aftermath of the Cathy Newman video, because what happened the next day was that the Guardian newspaper in the UK posted a story saying, I think the title was something like Channel 4 has to call in security experts in the aftermath of interview. And then in the first few lines, they characterized me with all the epithets that I'm characterized by people who think they hate me. And
the conversation keeps on going and Peterson gives a bit more information on the topic and why it was kind of obvious that Cathy Newman did not in fact win the debate.
And they said, well, Channel 4 had to call in security experts and the police. And I read that and I thought, okay, well, you can call in security experts about anything and the police, and the fact that they're called in doesn't provide evidence of any credible threat. It's like it's, and then she turned into the victim of the story. And so I tweeted to her, I said, really, you want to, this is how you want this to go? You want to be, now you're the victim of this, is that right? And then, but I also tweeted, and this was my
question. In this next clip, Jordan Peterson is doing some sort of Q&A when a woman asks him a question that Jordan cringes at and thinks is completely wrong. However, Peterson handled the situation well and prevented it from getting any more awkward.
I want to know, what is your answer to young people for some of the really big problems facing humanity, like the climate catastrophe, like economic crisis, like the precarious job market? Because I just don't, like, you talk all this much about individual responsibility. Most of us are never going to be able to afford to have all of these assets to have responsibility over. So what is your advice beyond banal comments like clean your room?
As you can see, this woman is asking her question, which is more of an opinion to Peterson, and after she does, this is when he calls her out for having an opinionated question.
Well, you know, it's actually rather difficult to answer a question that ends with your comments are banal, politely. So, you know, I would consider that more of an opinionated personal and political statement than actually a question. So why don't you try reformulating that so that there's an actual question there?
What is your...
Australian politician. Coming up next, we have yet another clip from that pretty awkward Q&A that we mentioned previously. Just that in this one, Peterson shuts down an Australian politician instead of a middle-aged woman.
Martin Luther King's dream was that there would come a time when people would not be judged by the colour of their skin, but by the content of their character. How is today's identity politics consistent with that vision?
Jordan Peterson.
Well, I don't think it's consistent with that vision at all. I mean, the problem I have with identity politics as a mode of philosophical apprehension is that it's predicated.
The politician doesn't take long to ask his question, and Jordan respectfully shuts him down and tells him what was wrong with what he asked.
On the idea that the appropriate way to classify people is by their group identity. in whatever fragmentary formulation that might take, in the multiplicity of ways that people can be divided into groups. And the classical postmodern, and I would also say Marxist way of viewing the world, even though those two things shouldn't be allowed together, they tend to be, is that group identity takes priority over individual identity, and I think that's precisely the opposite of what Martin Luther King was hoping for and working for. And
protests. This clip is especially awkward because of the way that this guy just came out of nowhere and started yelling at Peterson, demanding an answer. Here, take a look for yourselves.
I want to go talk to Peterson. Peterson, do you have any comments on the Nazi presence at your protest? The presence of Nazis and white supremacists assaulting people at your protest. Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I don't like Nazis.
Then why are you?
Why were they here? Well, how can I answer
Are there views in alignment with yours? At some point, you have to realize.
That's a foolish question. Look, if you want to know what my views are,
I've watched all of your videos. Yes.
including
Yes, I have.
then why would you ask such a question?
Because this is my interpretation of your video.
As you can see, this guy has absolutely no respect for Peterson and just bombards him and attacks him out of nowhere. However, Peterson quickly and respectfully answers the question.
Apparently,
All of the people who arranged the protest against you watched all of your videos.
do you want to disavow 150 videos on YouTube?
No, your lectures, which sparked the debate.
Okay. I want to disavow the support. Could you let me talk to her for a moment?
Don't call me that, please.
So, I have 150 lectures on YouTube. There's 500 hours of my views.
Do you really
If
think that
wanna
you're
find
worth
out
all
what
of
they
that
were-
time?
So look, I will answer your question, okay? I've studied Nazism for a very long time. It's been 4 decades, and I understand.
So in conclusion, Jordan Peterson, like all of us, has had some pretty awkward moments with people that try to win an argument against him. However, most of the time he doesn't freak out and rather answers the question respectfully and gives his point of view. Anyways, that brings us to the end of this video. Hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this in your inbox. With that being said, we hope to see you again soon.